today's session. A few things I want to share before we start the session is that make sure that if you have questions, put it up in the Q&A panel. Please do not do the personal chat. You can put it up in the panel and then we'll answer it by the end of the session. We do have experts available who are going to answer it as and when it is possible. We are also recording this webinar and we'll be posting in the articles section so that you can share it with your peers, your friends, and you can even listen to it later. A couple of polls are we going to run during the event, so make sure you participate and participate in those polls. So let's get started. Let's get the presentation going, and I welcome Kiran once again. Over to you, Kiran. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanmay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kony Upgrades Workshop. So let's start with a high-level overview of what the agenda is going to be. So the first thing we'll talk about is why you should consider upgrading to our latest app platform offering, which is V8, and that includes Kony Visualizer and Fabric. So the next section is going a little more in detail on what our latest app platform offering is, going into some of the flagship features of our V8 release. And then lastly, we'll touch upon what some upgrade resources are that you can use that will help the upgrade process easy. And we'll close with a Q&A session, basically asking questions on any aspect of upgrades. So why should you consider upgrading to the latest version? And just before we start that, there are a couple questions we'd like to ask you, and we'd appreciate you answering both these questions. One is we'd like to understand what version you currently are on, right? And if you are considering an upgrade, what might a rough time frame be when you'll initiate action for an upgrade? That'll give us context as we go along in the presentation. So you should see a couple questions pop up on your screens, and if you can vote there, that'll be great. So I'll give you a moment for that, and then we can get started with the content. Okay, so why should you consider upgrading the Kony app platform, right? So our V8 release is our latest offering, and the specific sub-release is what we call V8 SP1, Service Pack 1. So part of the switch is nomenclature change from the dot releases to service packs, and therefore we call it SP1 now, Service Pack 1. And the express intent of our V8 release is that your time to ship apps and your productivity, your time to ship apps is significantly lower and your productivity is really high. Okay, so if you upgrade it to V8, you can leverage all these features to significantly reduce your time to ship, right? And we have new offerings in the form of Marketplace and App Factory, both of which are ancillary to App Platform, and we'll talk about that as we go further in the conversation. And you can leverage these features only because these product offerings only because they support V8 and onward, right? And as you can imagine, our new release has a wide range of bug fixes and significant performance improvements. And overall, because of the focus on reducing application development time, your total cost of ownership of your own project is going to be considerably lower, right? And another natural benefit of upgrading is going to be top tier support. Basically, you'll have top quality of support because these are all newer versions of our products, and we are investing more and more in them, right? And the next up is the Kony Cloud itself. So if you've been a long time on-premise user for our backend solution, you can leverage the Kony Cloud offering of Fabric and significantly improve efficiency there. And saving the last for the best, if you upgrade it to V8, you don't ever have to upgrade again on the front end side because Visualizer now supports auto upgrades with V8. Okay. So this is a high level snapshot of what we have in V8, right? The cornerstone of V8 is the components and marketplace, so the column you see on the left, and what components and marketplace enable, and we'll talk about that in a moment, is rapid app creation and assembly, and you will also see a demo in some time of how quick it actually is. And we have a wide range of enterprise grade, full stack and productivity tools that go with V8, and future app experiences built on newer platforms and newer underlying platform releases like iOS and Android. Okay, so let's get started with the big cornerstone of our V8 release, which is components and marketplace. So marketplace is basically a repository of reusable software assets, and by software assets we mean reusable front-end software components and reusable back-end data connectors that are not already natively supported in Fabric. And you can post integrations to third-party libraries, what we call native function interfaces, and a wide range of other software assets that can go into it. So what are components? So components are the most frequently used mobile UX patterns, and the marketplace has about 70 or 80 of them currently. So that would include things like your hamburger menu, the sliding menu, for instance, or product list details, the login screen, or a horizontal parallax effect, or a sliding menu, like I mentioned earlier. So these are all some of the most frequent mobile UX elements that you find in any modern mobile app, right? And what a component does is basically packages this into a reusable asset that you can reuse across multiple of your projects or multiple times within the same project, and you can expose configurable properties for each of these components, right? And the leverage that you will have in marketplace is first class integration with visualizer, which means you can access the marketplace, which has all these components that you see on the right directly accessible from visualizer. Likewise, you have data adapters. So data adapters are basically backend connectors that are built on top of open API specifications and RAML specifications and hosted on the marketplace. So these you can import directly from within Fabric console, right? So that would basically enable you to connect to a wide range of backend connectors, and Fabric also allows you to build your own data adapters that are not in the marketplace using the create data adapter console within Fabric console. So you currently see a wide range of connectors on the right that would include PayPal and Amadeus and Trello and a wide range of other ones, LinkedIn, and a wide range of other ones also. And this is all work in progress, and this is a continuous work from us. So you will continue to see a lot more of this shipping, every quarter or so. And the marketplace, what you just saw, is the public marketplace that you can access directly on the community portal. But you can also have a private instance of this marketplace where you can basically restrict access only to the assets that you want to share and only to the people that you want to restrict access to. Right? That basically would mean you could share IP specific to your business, or repeatable business use cases that are specific to you, but you don't have to expose them to the public marketplace. Basically, in the public marketplace, the ones that you saw a moment ago, you can submit all these assets to the outside world where anybody else can also use it. Likewise, we keep submitting them into it as the company itself, as Kony. But the private marketplace is strictly within your company, right? And you can also share assets from one private marketplace to another within your organization if you have multiple business units, for instance. And there is a simple, straightforward submission process, and your designated moderators will approve the submitted assets. So that's the private marketplace. So this is a snapshot of various assets that we currently have in the public marketplace that you can access right now. And you have a wide range of for future-looking pieces also, including facial recognition like Gemolto and Jumio, which is an identity management interface, and we are working actively on chatbots and voice authentication and so on. And you have a wide range of UI components, like I mentioned, and a whole range of backend connectors. Moving on, in Visualizer, in V8, we introduced a library panel, what we call the Visualizer library, that you would see to the left of your screen in Visualizer. And what it is basically a collection of the most commonly used UI elements, common UI assets, things like headers and footers and date pickers and charts and so on and so forth. So this is a wide range of the most frequently used UI elements that you can drag and drop into your canvas and build your app. In addition, Visualizer has a wide range of other features that got introduced as part of V8, and this is a snapshot of the various features that went in. So there's been improvement on practically every front, on every significant feature in V8. And in addition, depending on what version you currently are on, Kony has continuously been shipping version after version with new and interesting features that you can leverage by upgrading. And this is a snapshot of some of those features. And toward the end, I'll point you to a resource where you can see all of these in detail. That'll also help you with the upgrade process itself. So moving on, let's see a quick demo of the marketplace usage. So this is Visualizer, and to the left you see your library, and you can access the marketplace directly from the menu bar, and you can see all of these components that I just showed you in marketplace, and you can read the documentation right there, and then you can choose where this will go sit. So this can go sit in your collection library, and when you say import, it becomes readily available there. And then you just drag and drop it onto your form, and you see all of the exposed properties to the right, and these are all configurable properties for the given component. So what we dragged and dropped here is the login component. So you will see options here for touch IDs and social logins and remember me and so on and so forth. And you can also add a product list, a list detail, which is a different component. And likewise, you'll see all of the associated events for that, all associated properties for that. You can also configure an event there, which is the login success event. Once you configure that, the flow goes to the list component from the login component. So let's see a live preview of how that works. So here is a login to the right of your screen, and because the login was successful, you'll see the employee list there. And likewise, you can go back and configure touch ID as you see here, and then that becomes instantly available to you. And again, as you preview it, it automatically pops up the fingerprint scanner on your device, and that's a login success event yet again, and you'll again see the employee list there. So that's the level of convenience that marketplace components enable for you, and there's a wide range of them. There's about 120 assets currently in the marketplace, the majority of which are UI components. Likewise, moving on to the back end on Fabric. Fabric is now officially called Kony Fabric, what was traditionally called Mobile Fabric, because of our omni-channel offering. And this is the high-level architecture of our offering, basically. So you have all these various front ends that can talk to Fabric, and this is API management, which was introduced in V7, and there have been significant improvements in V8 for API management, which we'll talk about in a moment. Likewise, there are all these mobile backend services that all of which have had significant improvements, and we'll touch upon some of them also. And like I said, there are a lot of inbuilt backend connectors in Fabric, and all the data adapters that you can import from Marketplace that make you connect to a wide range of line of business backends, enterprise systems, SaaS services, bot and AI platforms, and so on. So the API management offering from within Fabric basically enables you to expose all of the APIs that you have built instantly to developers that can build apps using them. So that becomes instantly ready for you without having to go to a third-party API management provider, because that enables you to manage all your API definitions, and it allows you to throttle. It allows you to version your APIs. It lets you define security policies, all from within the API admin console. Likewise, a significant improvement in V8 is how these APIs get documented. So developers can now easily discover APIs, and API generation is automatic. So users can view the generated open API specs, right? And because it's automatic, documentation is always up to date, and you can test the APIs directly from the portal that you expose to developers. Likewise, another new offering from in V8 is offline objects, which basically is a much simplified, a very simple approach for offline data, so between your front end and back end. So it's built on the object model, which is part of Fabric. It's a certain backend integration service. It's a backend service that you can leverage independently or as offline objects here. So what it allows you to do is sync, bidirectional sync between your front end and the back end at the object level, right? You can easily test, audit, and report all this sync traffic, and it's also multi-threaded, and therefore your application performance should be considerably higher than any traditional implementation. And this is a snapshot of the various features in V8 Fabric. Again, practically every significant feature in Fabric has been enhanced in V8, just like with Visualizer. And you will also see, a development story of all the various features we developed over a period of time, all the way from 7.0 to 7.3 before V8. Let's talk about the new offering from Kony called App Factory. So App Factory is basically our CI/CD offering, which is continuous integration and continuous delivery. So in the modern day, in a modern day tech endeavor, you basically develop a whole bunch of apps is one thing, but you also frequently ship them. So what CI/CD enables you to do is all new changes that get submitted automatically get built, using App Factory, and you can automatically quickly deploy them. That's continuous delivery. So all the apps that you see on the App Store that frequently that get a weekly update, for instance, are a result of a process just like this. So what App Factory does is basically talk to various source controls, including GitHub, and it builds all the new check-ins on a periodic basis or at will, or basically at scheduled times, right? And it deploys them onto a device form, the AWS device form, and then it will ship you results, and you can monitor all that from a console. So you can build them either ad hoc or automatic, like I mentioned, or manually whenever you want. So, and you can monitor all this from within the console. So that's App Factory, the CI/CD offering from us. And another offering along the same timeline as V8 for us is significant progress in enablement, and the biggest of which is Basecamp. Basecamp is basically our new community portal where you will have access to experts within Kony. You can post questions, you can exchange conversations, tech conversations with other developers, and you get badges for your contributions to the community. and this is not a substitute for the support channel, but this is a community where you can quickly ask questions, best practices and so on. So the current workshop that we are in is also launched off of Basecamp. Basecamp also hosts a whole bunch of enablement collateral, enablement material for V8 that includes videos that cover a lot of the topics that we just talked about, such as V8 itself, and then marketplace and authoring components, our reference architecture, data adapters, private management, API management, and so on, right? And lastly, the various upgrade resources you have at Kony. So the first of which is a tool we recently developed, especially targeting projects that are at version 6.5 or later, and it's ideal for 6.5 because all upgrades from 5.x versions must first come to 6.5, and then the upgrade must happen from 6.5 to V8 post that. So what CURD does, and CURD stands for Kony Upgrade Readiness Tool, it basically does a quick diagnosis of your project and makes some recommendations to you based on observations of potential roadblocks that you might encounter based on your older implementation vis-a-vis our new release. Right? It's a simple Java tool, it's a Java file, and it generates an Excel report for you. And it significantly reduces significantly simplifies the upgrade process, because you will discover what kind of issues you might encounter much upfront in the upgrade process as opposed to later. Let's see a quick demo of running the tool, and I'll give you information on where you can get it. So basically, you provide either a zip or the root folder of your project, and you specify paths to your web.xml and your service def file. And then when you launch the test, it runs, when you launch the tool, it basically runs a whole bunch of test suites, test cases, and looks for signatures of issues that we know you may run into. And once it's done, it quickly generates this report for you, which is an Excel file, with what actions you need to take, what the observation is, and what's actually okay as part of your upgrade. So next up is Upgrade Hub. So basically, Upgrade Hub is our single repository for everything that's upgrade. So it captures the process of upgrading from an older version to V8. Likewise, it also lists all of the new features between your current version and V8, and including everything that I showed at the beginning of our feature evolution. So it goes all the way from the 5.x to the latest version. So that'll give you specific things that might be very useful for your current projects, right? And lastly, it also documents CURD itself. So this is a snapshot of the landing page, and it's based off of Basecamp. So you'll see, again, the Y upgrade pitch there, which captures all the key features, like you see in the table of contents to the right, and then the upgrade process of your current project to the latest. So this is a list of the various resources that can help you with the upgrade process. And what we want to call out is the support process does not change for all traditional product issues, but for all upgrade specific asks or issues or questions that you may have, you can always write to upgrades@kony.com. Whereas for specific product issues, you can always use the support ticket, the support channel, right? Likewise, Upgrade Hub and CURD are hosted off of Basecamp, which is basecamp.kony.com, and you can see Upgrade Hub from within there. And you will also see access to all the enablement material there. And lastly, there is a blog on Basecamp, on our blogs, on the Kony blogs, that again presents a high-level snapshot of this if you want to look up some of these some of the features of V8. So that brings me to the end of my side of the presentation, and we are open to take questions on any aspect of what you've seen. And there are also a couple questions that we'd like to highlight, just like the ones you saw at the beginning.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Kiran, for taking this session. Yes, we do have few questions. Do you want to read it out?
Oh, yeah, actually, give me just a moment. Have to open it. Yeah, actually, do you mind reading it out, because I'm trying to find.
Yeah, that's okay. Let me just read it out for you. That's okay.
Yes, please.
So one
Yeah.
question which is pending says, what exactly do you mean by App Factory? This question is from Rishikesh.
Okay. Hi, Rishikesh. So AppPlatform is basically a CI/CD platform, like I said. So it's a continuous integration, and a continuous delivery platform. So once you deploy it within your enterprise, you can basically connect that to your source control, GitHub, right? And it would periodically read from your GitHub according to a schedule that you specify, right? Basically, you can say every time you make a check-in, you can kick off an App Factory job, which will basically take the project, build it, and then launch to a device farm, run some prescribed set of tests that you define, and then share results with you via the console and email. So this is especially helpful, if you periodically ship your app out to the app stores. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Hi, Rishikesh. So I hope that answers your question. In case if you still have questions, we're still here. You can put your questions in the Q&A panel, or otherwise you can go to Basecamp and ask questions. We have a big community there. The other question, Kiran, is from Silverio. He's asking, how stable is version 8? One would be afraid of upgrading to the newest version, imagining it would have many bugs that would only be fixed after a certain time.
Hi. So V8 shipped close to 6 months ago, September. So it shipped in September. So that's almost 6 months now. And we also shipped several fix packs and also a service pack a couple months ago. So they had a significant payload in SP1, what we call SP1, the service pack 1, has been bug fixes. Therefore, it's actually in a pretty stable state, and all of our new customers are starting off with V8, and there are several upgrades happening also to V8. And generally speaking, depending on what version you are coming from, the upgrade itself is fairly straightforward to V8. Does that answer your question a little?
Right. So as of now, we don't have any more questions here. I would still say that if you have questions, you can put it up in the Q&A panel. We are here for a few more minutes. Or in case you can go to Basecamp and ask questions there. Silverio is saying thanks for the answers, so I think he got his answers.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, and please answer the poll that just popped up, and that'll give us a perspective of what the scope of your apps is.
Sure. So let me just check Q&A panel one more time, and
Sure.
I see no questions here. So okay, there's one question from Lavanya. She's saying, are there any specific support for FFI in V8 for Android and iOS FFI?
Hi, Lavanya. So there is support for FFIs in V8, but that's only backward compatibility. You cannot build any new FFIs. So what we encourage though is NFIs, which is our new offering of building native integrations, and that's actually the recommended way to go for us. Does that make sense? And NFI is basically native function interface, and that's an automatic mapping of native functions to JavaScript code. So that makes it significantly easier compared to FFIs. I believe Abhijit is helping
Yeah.
you out. He's our
I hope,
expert on
Lavanya, that is
visualization.
useful. Yeah. We're just waiting for a couple more minutes. Okay, so
Sure.
there's one more question from her. And may I know for JS libraries?
Okay. Give me a minute. So can you say
Do
that
you want to
again?
repeat it, Kiran?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Sure. So let me just repeat her first question again, because I think this is in context to the first one. So the first one was
Sure.
that you have already answered, which says, are there any specific support for FFI in V8 for Android and iOS FFI? And the second one
Yeah.
says, and may I know for JS libraries?
So JavaScript libraries, yes. Yeah, there is support, yes. And okay, and Abhijit is also typing in the answer, so you can see a little more detail to it. You can integrate JavaScript libraries in V8.
So just as we are getting more questions, I just want to highlight this for the next webinar we have. It's on Git for Visualizer projects that we are we are putting it up. We are setting it up right now. So you'll see that article in more details on Basecamp. So make sure that you log into Basecamp and check for events. On the main top page, on the home page, you will see events. You can click on events and see all events there, and you can register so that you get the updates whenever we post it. If you have any questions, once again, you can just log into Basecamp, put it up there, ask your questions, and we have a big community out there who can help you there. If you have no more questions, then I think we can end the session here. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thanks, Kiran, for taking this session. Thanks, Abhijit. Thanks, all the experts that we have here for answering these questions. We hope to see you again. Thank you so much once again. Bye-bye.